This is the Vision 79 podcast, where my friend Sander and myself, Mason, discuss recent developments in our business and personal growth. The name Vision 79 comes from our respective racing numbers. Sander's is 40, mine is 39. Together, we have a shared vision for success in business and our personal lives. That makes the number 79. Many successful people have started small, just like us, but very few of them have documented their process. We intend to be the first to document our journey from start to finish. We like to start each podcast with a brief business and life update before getting into the meat of the podcast. If you're not interested, skip it. This is really for ourselves in the future when we're going back and rewatching our episodes to see what our thought process was like, what kind of people we were, or are now, were in the future tense. But for business this week, huge. I'll start with my stuff because there's not very much. I just worked some more employee training and informational resources, PowerPoint presentations. I have 2 that I'm working right now. They're getting kind of lengthy, but it's my opinion that if you have a more in-depth onboarding that employees can refer back to throughout their time working, you save yourself a lot of time on the back end. So it's worth doing a lot on the front end. But the big bullet point is that you got all of the bulk recording completed.
Yes.
All the editing is done. For those who are unaware, when I say we, I mean Sander. We record a podcast and a business style game every week and release that the following week. But when we quit our jobs and start to build out this business, we're not going to have time to do that. So we wanted to pre-record and pre-edit content to release while we're doing that so that we can dedicate all of our time to the business. So Sander has spent the better part of the last 2 months doing all of that bulk editing and the editing in real time for the podcast that we've been releasing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. I appreciate all the editing that you do, like week in and week out, but especially for the bulk stuff so that we can continue with the flow even after we start with the business.
I appreciate it. It has been a lot of work, but I think I'm really happy with how the content came out. I'm really excited for the question segment that we're going to have.
Me too.
Which is something a little bit different. We're going to answer 20 questions each, and then those will be featured on TikTok, so I think you guys will really like that. And I was surprised at how relieved I was to be done with it. And now I'm kind of sitting there like, I don't know what to do. I don't have like 14 videos to edit in the next 6 hours, you know?
I'll update you on the business stuff I've been doing, and then you'll have something to do.
Yeah,
but
for sure. I'm looking forward to it.
We released
and
one.
Thank you to Mason for keeping up with the business stuff while I've been absent for the past 6 weeks.
You don't know what I've done yet. I could have totally fucked it.
That's true.
It's fine. It's good stuff. The one short that we did release, it's like a bloopers. I talked about some assassination or something. That short, like blooper, has as many views as each of our podcast game things.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that when we get into the actual like valuable ones,
I think people will really like them. Actually, I think those have a lot of value to them.
I agree.
I think they have a lot of potential. I think you guys will really like the questions. So look out for them coming up in the nearest future. So I'm really looking forward to posting that and looking forward to the responses and seeing what people
hopefully it's in very short order. We should.
That would be awesome.
On paper, we have been predicted that our investment money is going to start coming in August. So we're in like the final stretch here. My countdown ends tomorrow or the next day for all the start of August.
The next day, Thursday, because that's the first.
Yeah. So, we're getting close.
Yes.
Do you have any other business updates? No, you actually do. You actually do.
I do.
Because Sander printed stickers for us. So now you can get our logo on a sticker.
I'm sorry. This is the wrong cup.
Oh, what is this?
The other cup.
Got it. I saw the title on it.
This is my gas clutch shift repeat cup.
Yeah.
So this is the cup that I have. And Mason also has one of these. And we both have shirts. But we printed this logo out on stickers. If you guys want one, they are 3-inch stickers. They're a nice gloss. They work on indoor, outdoor application. If you want one, just DM us. We'll get you guys one. But we have a bunch of those.
I'm really happy with them. I have always been like anti-sticker on laptops. I've always hated it. And I have slowly divulged into one because the laptop that I have is on its last leg. And so I'm like, fuck it. I like the stickers. I'll put it on anyways. I've also, every time we order AMSOIL and I'm in the gun stuff that I'm buying, I always get stickers with my product and I always throw them away. And I don't like doing that because I enjoy stickers. I just don't have anywhere to put them.
I keep them in a folder. I have a stack of automotive stickers this thick with just different shit that I bought.
I just started a box of that for myself to keep all the stickers in. But a folder is a better idea because you can keep them flat. My box is only this big, so I can't fit big ones in there. But that's all the business updates that I have. In the next few days, I'll probably get you caught up. When you're done editing this podcast stuff, I'll probably catch you up on the business stuff.
Yeah.
And by then we can maybe start to put together.
I hope to be done tonight, to be honest with you.
Perfect.
So you can catch me up tomorrow.
Are you staying up super late?
Until 2. So like normal.
It is 9 o'clock at night, and we've just cracked the Celsius. So we'll get going tonight. Okay. I've got a lot of life updates, and then a lot of quotes, and then a lot of like extra shit. So we're going to be a little bit all over the place, but that's good because it means that you're going to get a variety of valuable information. I'll start with my life update because I'm super self-centered and I love to talk about myself. But I have been trying to sell this Lego train for like 2 years, and I have not gotten any bites on it. And then out of the blue, someone messaged me on Facebook Marketplace and they bought it. So the reason I bring this up is because I realized I had never shipped a package before. Never once. Not through USPS, not through UPS, not through FedEx, Amazon,
What did you choose?
anything.
This is critical to our friendship.
I went to UPS.
Thank God.
And it was so easy. I went in, I just stole.
UPS is the best.
I stole.
UPS, sponsor us. I love you. You always get my shit on time, and you're always fair about your prices.
I stole an empty box off of my neighbor's front porch, and I just put the train in there. And then I walked in, and they were like, "Do you have a return?" And I was like, "I need to ship this to someone." And they were like, "What?" And I was like, "This is a Facebook Marketplace thing. I sold it. I don't know how to get it to them." And they were like, "Do you have like a shipping like address or something?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I pulled it out, and they were like, "Okay, you can put it on the sticker over there." And I was like, "I don't know how to do that." And they were like, "Just okay." And they sat me down, and they were like, "We need this information." I gave it to them, and they fucking did everything. Yeah. And then it got to the dude like the next day. It was fantastic. $250 for a set that sells on average like $240. So I got what I was hoping for from it. So super happy. And that set was gifted to me several years ago by a friend. So I paid nothing for it, and I sold it for $250, which is great. We also sold, but it won't fit in a box, the 335. We talked about it on the last podcast, but we misinterpreted. We thought the guy was coming that week. He's coming this week in a few days. I'm fucking so excited to see that money. I'm so excited to see that money.
Me too. So yeah, that car will be out of our lives, which will be a nice relief.
Yeah, it hasn't really been cumbersome, but putting the money into something, we're getting close to the point where we need that money back. And I'm excited for the buyer to get the car. He got it for a good price, so I'm excited for him to enjoy it.
You got a great deal on it. It's a great car.
Yep.
So super happy with the review.
He's going to drive it all the way home. Before I go to the rest of my life updates, what do you have?
I have life updates as well.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Get started. I've got a bunch, and it's a wide-ranging thing, and I don't want to hog the time.
Okay. Yeah. I decided to throw a little bit of money at the Porsche. So I ordered the necessities to get it on the road. Or at least as of now, what I'm seeing as necessities. You know, as I dig in, I might find something that's broken that I don't know about it, but I have done a pretty thorough inspection and run through on that car. So I'm pretty confident that I've hit all of the major points. And they include engine oil and filters, transaxle fluid, sheet steel for the battery tray. I'm just going to cut it and lay it in there because it's a little bit corroded. So I just want to reinforce it a little bit. All new fuel hose to meet modern fuel specifications because that old braided stuff will start to corrode, and it already has. It looks like shit. So new fuel hose. Those cars have common issues with fuel hoses or injectors leaking, and that leads to engine bay fire, and that's not something that I want to see. New fuel filter. Brake master cylinder was blown out, so I ordered a new one. Brake pressure regulator rebuild kit is something that I ordered. That's a system on the... you'll actually love this. Maybe. It's a valved system for just the rear brakes. And when you reach 525 PSI of braking pressure, it will reduce the pressure output to the rears so that as the car pitches forward, you don't lock the rears. And so it's like a really primitive, just rear end ABS system.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that's good because all the weight is in the back in that car, so you're more likely to lock the rears anyways.
Yeah, and I mean, when as you brake and you transfer the weight forward and then you have that mass behind you, if you actually walk up, it's just going to whip around. Right. So I wanted to refresh that valve. I just ordered a rebuild kit for it. It was cheaper than buying a new one. And I'll see how it goes. If I need a new one, I need a new one. But that regulator I was concerned about because if I go to hard stop and that valve locks in the wrong position, I could potentially have a reduction in brake pressure constantly, or I was afraid of it failing in such a way that would have locked pressure to the rears, right? because that's
so you always have that pressure in the
right. So I didn't want to be driving down the road, have a hard stop.
Now you lock
20
up.
miles from home, and then my rear wheels are almost fully locked up.
Yeah.
I didn't want to run into that situation, so I ordered the $40 rebuild kit.
Dude,
I'll throw that on there.
Driving here from the bar that we were working at, some fucking dude tried an illegal U-turn on I-95. Yeah. They've got a gap for like cops to sit in and for official vehicles, and he tried to do U-turn there right in front of us. Fucking terrifying. If your rear's locked there, dude, he doesn't even have to pull out for you to like brake a little bit too hard and then spin out.
Yeah. So I ordered that guy to rebuild it. The flex lines on all four corners actually looked really good. They didn't have any cracking or anything like that, and they looked relatively new. I think they were probably refreshed not too long ago, so I didn't order those yet, but I ordered brake caliper rebuild kits for all four corners to get that out of the way. 3 out of my 4 calipers are seizing up or not working, so I just ordered fresh rebuild kits for
Willwood brakes.
Eventually, but for now I went with the factory rebuild kit.
You don't want to lock all 4 wheels instead of just the rear two?
Not yet. And then I found valve cover gaskets that are so that car has cork valve cover gaskets. They're just like a ring, and then those caps sit on them. And so I found ones that are actually slightly thicker than factory. And over time, that cork compresses and it can lead to leaks. So I bought the ones that are just a touch thicker. And when I do the valve clearancing and tolerancing on the top end, I will put those in as well.
Do they make metal or silicone ones, or just only cork?
They might. Cork for that kind of gasket was really common up until like the 80s.
Interesting.
So yeah, a lot of cars use different cork. They used cork on not just valve cover gaskets. I've seen cork used on like coolant passages.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Head gaskets have always been like a metal or rubber blend or whatever. Right. I've never seen a cork head gasket, but I have.
Well, that gets really hot.
Yeah, cooling, throttle bodies, valve cover gaskets, other basic lower temperature items like that.
Weird.
Yeah, I've seen cork before, and I just ordered the factory ones. They were like $7 a pop. The originals that weren't thicker were like $3 a pop. So I was like, I'll spend the extra $8 total to get something that's a little better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just threw that stuff together. I'm excited to get that car running. I was informed that I can insure it as an antique, and that should actually be cheaper than my insurance now. And the benefit, which I don't understand.
But I don't know why you have it insured now.
Well, just the story, because I want it insured in case this place floods. Because I can make a claim on it.
Right, but if it floods, how high does the water have to get to actually do damage to the engine?
It's not a factor of how high the water has to do to get damage. It's how high does the water have to get for me to claim that damage was done. That's
okay. Okay, and then I'll ask you, how much help was your insurance in your accident, which wasn't your fault at all, with all of your receipts? Because you still had to sue for that.
They were okay. This is what I wanted to get into, though. The benefit of getting it running and driving is I can insure it as an antique. I have to prove that it's driving to insure it as an antique, but once it's an antique, I tell them what the car is worth. And if the car is damaged in any way or totaled in any way, they have to pay out that amount that I told them it's worth. Okay. So if I tell them it's worth $20,000, then I can get $20,000 for that car in the event of something tragic.
That's good. If it's driving, have the insurance no matter what. Absolutely. I totally back that. But just parked in a garage, it doesn't make sense to me. But
yeah. I'm just a little bit paranoid because I live beachside and I haven't lived in Florida long enough to be accustomed to hurricanes.
It definitely could flood, and it could flood all the way up past the motor. But as I know, you can fill your engine with water and it'll be totally fine.
That's true. That's another great story about that.
I fully hydro-locked my engine driving through a flooded parking lot. There was water in every cylinder, and it was running the next day. So I don't know.
Incredible.
I don't know if that's a Chevy thing or if God is real, but yeah. Anyways,
I don't know how that made it through. I have one more thing.
Yeah, go for it. No. Do you think?
The 530i, I did some work on it. I fixed the module communication issue on that car, so now I'm able to access all the modules. And once I did that, I was able to see that my driver's side seatbelt buckle sensor is faulty. There's a little hall magnetic sensor in there. So I ordered a used buckle that was verified to work off of eBay, pretty cheap. And that's going to be shipped here. I fixed the fog lights on that car, so I have real fog lights now, which I wanted to show you and then forgot. And I did an oil change on it. But as soon as I fixed the fog lights, my left my left license plate light went out. So I ordered the bulb for that. That'll come in this week and I can throw that on there. I still have the right one, but the left one's out. So, yeah, I did a little bit of work on that car. Looking forward to fixing up the Porsche. That'll be thrown on my Porsche TikTok too, which I guess I can drop in the description maybe.
Yeah, sure.
I'll think about it.
It's related. I don't mind.
Yeah. It's a quality channel. So I think it's Vision 79 approved. Yeah, that's all I have for life updates. Cats are good. My birds are prospering. I have now 5 adult birds and 3 baby birds on my back porch, so that's been interesting. But yeah, it's good.
Sweet.
Yeah.
My last 2 things, they're longer topics, which is why I took a break to listen to yours, because we're going to kind of flow into the podcast here.
Yeah.
I finished this morning all of my firearm records. And
awesome.
That's important because if I ever, for one, it's a 2-pronged approach. The first half is if I ever have to defend myself, fire on someone, and I'm arrested, as you should be if you shot someone, I'll need an attorney or I'll need to make a phone call to you or my girlfriend or my parents. And you guys need to have access to my records somewhere. And I want to have very thorough records because having a concealed carry weapons license shows that you're responsible. Any training that you have done is responsible. All the paperwork for gun ownership that proves that you legally bought it, you went through the cool down period, all that shit is really important. And I want to place importance on it because there are a lot of people who don't think that it's that important and don't pay attention to it. And ultimately that can go towards a case that shows that you're not very.
And also the sad thing is too, is that if you don't do your paperwork and you have to use your weapon to defend yourself, there are so many people that can jump on you for not having your paperwork done to be like, this is why we need, better protocol, or this is why we have gun violence, because people like this exist that don't do their paperwork. And look at this guy, look at him. They can make an example out of you when you potentially have done nothing wrong. Right. So I think it's really important to have your ducks in a row, especially regarding that topic, so that you can set a good precedent and a good example for the gun community. And you can also protect yourself in the court of law. So that's a great point. Happy for you.
Exactly. I'm trying to really do that. And then not only practice it, but then also preach it on the platforms that we have, which we can also, we're sharing it with other people and we can harken back on it if I ever do have to defend myself. That's the whole reason for having guns.
Podcast 22. We talked about safety.
I'm sure I'm going to talk about it a lot. It's important.
Yeah.
And the second reason that I would want to record everything is because you service your guns similarly to how you service your car. But instead of miles, it's shots fired or time. So if I have 200 rounds through my gun, odds are by that point in time, it's going to get a little gummed up and you should oil it, right? Oil for guns is the same as oil for cars. It's specific to each gun. They each take different types of lubricant and the cleaning procedures are different. So every time I go shooting, I'm tracking how many shots I took, what ammunition I used. I'm scanning the targets that I used to gauge my accuracy, and all my service and cleaning intervals and everything like that. I'm going to track all of that stuff.
I'm sure that'll make the gun more valuable if you go to sell it on the used market too.
100%. Yeah. It's similar to the cars if you've got a thorough service history.
Yeah. I finished my it's similar to yours. I do invoices for my cars and I got those all updated based on the new work that I have. And I actually wanted to show you my booklet because it's I'm so happy with how the receipts and invoices have come out. It's just so organized. I'm really happy with it. So.
That's my next thing now that the gun records are done, is getting the folder that my dad gave me with the Camaro all scanned in.
Yeah.
But I also got new ammunition. I'll show you that. Okay. So in addition to getting all of the records finalized, I also bought new ammunition, and I wanted to show you because there's a physics principle here, which is pretty interesting. Which
that one's got a hole in it.
I bought hollow point rounds, which everybody knows. Those are the rounds that you want to use.
Are you able to take these out?
Sure.
I thought you were going to shoot my lamp for a second. I was like, oh shit.
There's a hollow point.
Oh yeah. Cool.
Got it. There's one of the hollow points. And there's one of the regular ones.
Huh.
So this is interesting because people will commonly refer to hollow points as like the self-defense round, right? They look very similar. Obviously, the difference is that the point is hollow. It's aptly named. But this is an interesting physics exercise because the reason these bullets are effective is because they have a regular entry size, but a large exit size. And that's because when a regular bullet hits you, it just goes straight through you.
Yeah.
But when a hollow point hits you, this concavity, when it hits your body, which is mostly water, which is an incompressible fluid, it creates internal pressure, which allows these flaps to open up and create a larger surface area to blow through the rest of you.
Interesting.
So
does it still travel through the air well? Because I mean, it's got that point on the front.
Yep, it travels through the air well. Interestingly, these bullets are measured in grain counts. So the black powder, do you know how bullets are structured?
No.
So this part at the front is the actual bullet. Same here. This bit at the front is the bullet. Okay. And there's the casing, which holds a bunch of black powder behind the bullet. Okay. And then there's the primer.
Oh, so that's why when you fire, this piece drops out and it adjusts the inside.
Right.
I never knew that. I was always confused because anytime I saw someone fire a gun, I was like, the bullets are falling on the ground. Like, what the fuck is going forward? I never looked into it.
This circle bit in the middle is the primer, which is when you pull the trigger, you just drop the hammer, and the hammer hits this very hard, and that energy is transferred to the black powder back here, which erupts, it combusts, and then throws the bullet out, right? So I'll show you here. So I'll pull two out of each. Once you fire, right, and the bullet leaves, you have this empty casing with all of the gunpowder expended, and the casing is stuck in there, right? So pretend I'm firing right now. I go bang, I pull the trigger. I won't. Notice this is proper trigger safety.
I was straight out. That's the one thing I know about gun safety. I watched a video on it, and they said anytime you're holding the gun, always have your trigger finger above the trigger, not on it. That's the one thing I know.
There are generally 4 key rules to gun safety, which is always have your gun pointed in the safe direction. Never point it at something that you're not willing to destroy, even if it's unloaded, right?
Yeah.
Always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Know your target and what's behind it. And there's one more, but I can't remember. Essentially just don't do dumb shit. But pretend I pull the trigger and fire it, right? What happens is the bullet leaves the barrel of the gun, and now the casing and the primer with the expended gunpowder is left in there. You can't fit a new bullet in there without ejecting it, right? So when I fire, the slide retracts back and kicks the casing out.
Yeah.
Now, this was a full bullet. Because I didn't pull the trigger, but this would have been an empty casing falling out.
Yeah.
And then once you do that, it pulls a new bullet up from the bottom of the magazine in the chamber, ready to fire. And the reason these are called semi-automatic instead of fully automatic, or I forget what the other one is, revolvers are not semi-automatic. And that's because every time you pull the trigger, you have to cycle it and pull the hammer back. But the act of this slide cycling every fire to get the next bullet in, all you have to do is pull the trigger next time and a bullet will fire.
Automatic's just when you hold it, right?
Yep, it automatically goes no matter what. And that's fully automatic.
When I used to, I didn't play many video games as a kid, but I used to play Uncharted with my dad occasionally, and I always liked the M4 or the AK-47 because you could just lay on it and fucking mow people.
And fully automatic AK-47s, I think, are illegal to have without proper permitting. But my friend had one, and he taught me how to bump fire it, which is essentially, this is an empty gun, so I'm going to put my finger on the trigger. But when you pull the trigger, you use the momentum of the gun cycling to actually move the gun back and forth on your trigger.
Oh, right.
So instead of going like boom, 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 it goes like boom, 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 boom. So it almost feels like a fully automatic machine gun when you're firing it. It's interesting. This is the proper way to put a gun down as well, because you can see straight through the bottom there. There's no bullet in the chamber. So you always leave it down with the chamber side up. That's how we're going to leave it for the podcast. But I bought hollow point rounds.
Cool.
Interestingly, these fire the same, and bullets are measured in grain count because the number of black powder grains you have in the bullet determines how much force you're ejecting the bullet with, right?
Yeah.
So these are standard 115 grain bullets, which for a 9mm handgun is on the regular lower end. These are 124.
Gotcha.
So they pack a little bit more of a punch. You can also do, I think 147 is the next step up from there. Although I've heard that the recoil from the 147 grain ones are pretty high. And interestingly, my gun is compensated, which means that you see these slots here.
Yeah.
When you fire, the gas that is coming out of the barrel behind the bullet can escape through here. Whereas normally when you fire, the gun kicks back a lot like this.
Yeah.
It uses its own gas expiring to keep the nozzle down.
Oh, that's cool.
Or muzzle. Keeps the muzzle down. So although I could probably go up a little bit in grain count, generally speaking, I just want to have a flatter gun.
Yeah.
I don't need all that, right?
Makes sense.
So that's most of my gun updates. The last gun update I have is I found a dry fire system that I shared with you.
Yeah. I was wondering if you were going to share that.
I will be. It's called Mantis Dry Fire. And essentially what it is you put a fake bullet in your magazine that has a laser in it. And then you put an attachment on your bottom rail. Not all handguns have a bottom rail. This is actually really interesting because the compensator normally screws onto the barrel of a gun, but the compensator is integral to the slide, and I have a bottom rail. This gun is
sweet,
fucking sick. Yeah, it's one of the smallest 9mm you can get out there. It's awesome. I love this gun. But it clips on the bottom here, and then when you fire, the trigger, the hammer, sends an electrical pulse through the laser bullet, and then the attachment on your bottom rail views where the laser is in regards to your target and tracks it. There's an upgraded version in which the bottom clamp also will detect your real live fire shots when you go to the range. That's the one that I want because it means that I can use it at home when I'm practicing, like, from my bedside, and I can practice it at the range. And that's awesome because with all of the different records I'm keeping, I can also keep track of how am I progressing in shooting.
Yeah.
Which is super cool.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
I was thinking about I should get one for home, and then at 2 a.m. when all the cockroaches come out and practice my shots.
Dude, I'm getting so carried away just with the gun world in its entirety because the mechanics of it are just as interesting as cars.
Yeah.
And it's much more affordable to get into when compared to cars, but I'm really enjoying it. And that's all the wrap up I have for the guns. I think I almost bought an AR the other week. I'm glad that I didn't. Because I took a trip to Miami with my girlfriend, and this is my last life update. I wanted to talk a little bit about it because I haven't visited many cities, but you grew up in Boston.
Yeah.
I visited San Francisco, and that's it. That's the only other city that I visited that I can remember. Yep.
So
I visited DC.
Been out of the state? Oh, well, no, you went with Grace to Ohio?
Wisconsin. I've traveled, but I haven't been to major cities. I'm talking like New York, Seattle, San Fran, that type of thing. LA. I haven't been to any major cities. I've just been to Seattle or San Francisco and now Miami. But it was really interesting.
You hadn't been to Miami before this?
Nope. I've passed through Miami. I saw my first Bugatti in Miami. But I just drove through on the way to the Everglades.
That's wild.
Yeah. Huh. No, it was fantastic.
I didn't know that.
And I have some positives, negatives, and the solution. The negative, it's a heavy negative, is everything takes so long to do there. We had to meet a liaison in the lobby of the condos we were staying at. And they said, give us a 20-minute heads up when you're ready and we'll send someone. And I said, cool. So when we got into Miami and the GPS said 10 minutes left in your drive, I was like, it'll take like 10 minutes to walk over to the place, right? And I texted them and fucking finding the parking garage, walking over took almost a half an hour. Wow. And we ended up being like really late to that person. I apologize profusely. But even from then on, everything takes forever. If you're not Ubering, which costs an exorbitant amount in the city, then you're going to be at least 45 minutes late to absolutely everything. And I made a joke. I was like, dude, like, I don't think Sandra would get anything done in the city because you'd be like 4 hours late to everything. And then Grace laughed. And I was like, actually, I don't think so because Sandra would know that it's going to take longer than he thinks. And so he'd get ready really early and he'd be on time for everything, ironically enough. Because in Melbourne, I really take for granted how quickly we can get to
Me too. And that's half the time I run late because I'm like, oh, it takes 20 minutes to get to Powell, but it takes 30.
I knew that's exactly how you would think. Yeah. And because you're like, well, the car's right outside. So like I'll leave at the 20-minute mark or whatever, right? And you just count the time it takes to like put your backpack together and get it in the car and get the car warmed up, right? Because it's that close. But in Miami, it was like, okay, we have to be someplace at 8. That means, we have to counter in an hour for the 30-minute drive because of parking and everything, and then a 15-minute walk, and then 10 minutes to get to the floor because the elevators were all jank.
Yeah.
And it took so long to get everywhere. The benefit is everything there was fucking awesome. I really love.
It is a very pretty. It is very
Dude,
cool city.
It's stunning.
It's very cool.
It's stunning.
Yeah.
Even the shitty parts, I enjoyed being around. Generally speaking,
Did you go to Little Havana?
no, absolutely.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm super xenophobic, but
it's cute there.
Generally speaking,
It's cute.
I hate people. I don't want people in my business. I don't want to fucking talk to you, etc. Right? But when we were there, people were loud, but they didn't really bother me. And it was like I can walk around all these different people and not expect to talk to them.
That's what Boston is too.
Yeah, it's really nice. I very much enjoy that. The people who made noise were really annoying because the fucking people who live there don't know how to play music quietly or respectfully. It's just how loud does my speaker go, and that's how loud I'll play it. That's really fucking annoying. But walking around, I realized why people don't like Melbourne. I think the answer is one word, and it's elevation. Because the malls here and the stores and the towns and everything here is on one flat level. You feel like you're at sea level here. You know you're at sea level.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Everywhere you go is the same, this axis. But in Miami, just walking around a mall or driving, you're going like up a ramp to the left, and then you can look back down to the right and see where you just were down there, and there's more stuff up above you. It's so much more engaging to just be there. Like, you don't even have to be doing anything, but like driving to the grocery store, you're driving through, I compared it to a jungle. When people say concrete jungle, I always thought they meant like there's a bunch of fucking annoying people there and it's like all concrete and desolate and gross, like jungle, like as a derogatory term. But no, generally, like being at floor level feels like you're on the jungle floor. Like there's a lot going on above you. It's cool. There's food and stuff. And then you get into like the medium level, like the what's it, troposphere or something in the middle of a jungle. There's a little bit more air. There's a little bit more space. There's a little bit of sunlight coming through. And then in the canopy, like in the top of the buildings, you look down on everything. It's warm. Yeah. It's bright. There's a lot of breeze. It was really an awesome experience. And
yeah, you love Boston. It's like that, but bigger with a lot of different and older architecture mixed in. It's a very pretty city.
Funny enough, I think that's why I'd hate it.
Why?
Because I really loathe the old architecture.
Oh yeah,
I really like the new stuff.
I forgot that.
Yeah, it's a taste thing, right? So when I visited San Fran, it didn't have as many elevation changes because there's more like swooping hills than there are like steep elevation changes. But a lot of the architecture is historic, and that just doesn't scratch the itch for me. But in Miami, all of it seems really new, and they incorporate a lot of vegetation into their architecture. And I love plants. So if I can be in a modern setting with lots of foliage around me, I'm a happy guy. And in San Fran, they didn't have like any greenery. And Grace was talking about New York. She's from Rochester. And she was like, yeah, Central Park this. And I was like, yeah, but those are coniferous like trees, or maybe deciduous. What's the winter ones? They don't lose their leaves. Whatever. It's more of like a forest than it is like the lush tropical stuff. But when you're in Miami, you really feel like the tropics is taking over the city. It's an awesome feeling, and I absolutely love it. I would love to spend more time there, but there's no fucking way I can do it while working, because like you would spend a 10-hour day working, and fucking 4 of those hours would be spent actually working. 6 is just trying to get to where you need to go.
Yeah.
But we stayed in a hotel or a condo, and we were on the 39th floor, and we had the perfect view of the Aston Martin Tower. The penthouse comes with the last unregistered Aston Martin Vulcan, so like unowned yet. It comes with the purchase of the penthouse. It's got, I think it has a helicopter pad on top, but I can't tell. And that little balcony thing, I say little, it's enormous. The balcony thing has a pool and 5 separated jacuzzis, a full bar, everything. And it has apartments ranging from like 700 square feet. For comparison, my apartment's like 750 to 19,000 square feet up towards the top. And the penthouse, I think, takes up like the top 5 floors or something like that. It's obscene. It's stunning. It's beautiful. Crazy prices. I saw somewhere that the penthouse was worth like $59 million or something like that, but I don't know if that's actually legitimate. But the penthouse has its own elevator, so you never have to wait. Every other floor you share. There's 10 elevators in that building, which is wild. The one I stayed at, which is just as tall but not as wide, but smaller rooms, had 6, and 2 of them were broken. So, for comparison. But man, I was talking to Grace while we were sitting in our balcony looking at that building, because like I sat and I looked at it for a long time, because that's the level that I want to achieve, right? And I thought to myself, like, that's what I want. Like at the top, that's what I want. And it's crazy because I'm sitting in this building right now thinking about how badly I want to be in that building. And one day I'll be in that building and I'll be able to look back at the exact same balcony that I was sitting on today thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference is here I have this beautiful building to look at. And when I'm there, I'm going to have this like shitty by comparison condo that I stayed at when I was fucking 23 and I spent all my money staying there. But it was an awesome trip. And that building is just spectacular. So I think the solution to Miami, the right way to do it is wait until you have so much money that you can just light it on fire and then go have a pool. So until then, probably not. Although I have a note to make later in the podcast about it. And then the last thing is we went and we visited her sister and then her fiance. They have their own business selling shoes. So all of this ties into business. Technically, it wasn't a business trip, but it kind of was because I got to learn about their business. And essentially what they do is they buy huge lots of shoes at wholesale prices and then resell them on like Amazon, Walmart, stuff like that. So when you buy something on Amazon, there are like 10 different stores that sell that shoe and each of them have like a week to sell. So you hit buy today and, you know, Jimmy and John ship you your shoe. You click it tomorrow, maybe it's Stacy and Cindy. It changes up and they're one of those stores. So they have a warehouse right now. It's 1,500 square feet. Dude, the number of shoes is absolutely obscene. I sent you a video and they're considering moving because they don't have enough space for all of their inventory. They want at least double. Not air conditioned. They've been doing this for years. Wow. Not air conditioned.
Must be balls hot in there.
It was balls hot in there. Like, it reminded me of when I worked at the steel fab shop on the plasma machinery. It was intense. I cannot believe that they do that every day. But they do it well, and I'm very happy, very glad to know them. They hooked me up with a pair of shoes. I'm super appreciative. It's awesome. But to roll into the actual podcast, it's interesting because Anna, the sister and the fiance, live with his parents in Miami. They have a house there because it's more cost effective. And I didn't ask them this, but I'm curious because I know that my parents do not understand the business thing at all. Like if we start this and then it doesn't go well and I ask to move back in with them, I'm sure they'll let me, but they will not be understanding of it. They'll probably fucking be pissed. And there's a Hormozi quote I found that kind of goes along with this because the disparity between how you and I and Grace's sister and her boyfriend see, or fiance see the world and how our parents see the world are very different. And Hormozi says, successful people see opportunity in every failure and normal people see failure in every opportunity. Both are right. Yeah. Only one gets rich. And that's when my parents, I've had this exact same conversation with my mother before when I say, you know, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to start this business and it's going to work. And she goes, but what if it doesn't? And I go, but what if it does? And it's the same conversation every time.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that comes from, but it was an interesting connection that I made.
I don't know where it comes from either, but it's true. It's true. I think it comes from the attitude of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps rather than complaining about the situation you're in. Mm-hmm. I think that's where it can stem from because the idea is similar in my mind, right? Like looking at failure and pulling something positive from that is the same as going through a shitty situation and trying to make the best of it. Right. You know, and I think that there are just certain people who are able to overcome that hurdle and look at the positives. And I think that hard times through life also, they can either break you down and form you into someone who just complains and seeks pity, mm-hmm. or it can build you up into someone who learns more effectively and pursues more opportunities and just strives for something greater. Mm-hmm. So I like that quote a lot.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
I think that it comes down to fear of failure.
Yeah,
because if you're afraid of failure, then you're going to not want to do it and then rationalize why you shouldn't, because then you'll see failure. Yeah. You'll see failure in an opportunity because you don't want to fail. But if you're okay failing and you recognize that that's the only real way to learn, then you're not afraid of trying it.
Right.
And it's so curious to me why these people in our lives are afraid of failure. I don't think I understand it. But I think that if you're able to break that,
it could be like a societal pressure too, because I mean, all throughout school, like middle school and high school, and if you go to college, your goal is to not fail.
Right.
Like your number one goal is to do as well as you can, make the least amount of mistakes. And on top of that, when you're in school, someone else is judging you on that, right? So I think you get programmed into your mind that it's important for other people to see validity in your work. And so I think that that's why people are scared of failing, because then they're scared that other people won't see validity in their efforts and their work, right? Maybe that has something to do with it, because I see that as like a potential result of how the school system is structured.
Yeah. I think that's interesting, because when I went through middle school and high school, I would get shit grades. My whole plan for middle school and high school was, this shit is easy. I'm just not going to do it for the first like full quarter. And then at the very end of the semester, I'll just ask them if I could submit all the work that I missed late. And then I would have 2 weeks that I would cram it all and submit it all. And so it went from I don't think I ever had a fear of like not being liked or not being approved. I never really cared about my grades. My parents would beat the shit out of me if I didn't get good grades. So it was like, I know I have to do it because I don't want to get yelled at, but I don't care about it. So I'm just going to merge the two, and I'm going to do all of it last second, and then I'll end up with an A. So I would have a D the entire semester and then bump it up to like a B in the very last like fucking 10 seconds of it. And that was enough for me. And I felt like I was getting one up over everybody because I found a more efficient way of doing it, and I could do it my own way, because I don't want to do it your way. I don't want you to tell me what to do. I'm going to do it my way. I'll still get it done. You'll still be happy about it, but it was just a precedence of, I don't want to do it your way. And I don't know where that defiance comes from, because I don't think either of my parents were like that. And I didn't have heroes like that when I was younger either. Like, I didn't have the, fuck you, I'll do it my own way, like, people in my life.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question, though.
Yeah.
Something to ponder as the years continue.
Yeah, man. I don't have an answer to a lot of these questions.
That's okay.
You're not going to learn shit.
I don't have great answers to the ones I'm asking you today.
What's your question? What's your first one?
My first one is, how do you hold yourself strong to your vision and dreams through turmoil and challenges?
Can you define what challenges?
So either life challenges or business challenges. You know, family matters are hectic. You get into an accident in your car, God forbid. Hope you don't. But, you know, shit like that. You know, you get in trouble at work, or I'm just iterating shit that's happened to me over the last 2 months. But, you know, you drive over your laptops with your car by accident. Just like hurdles like that kind of are demoralizing, you know, just from a general sense. Like, they bring you down a little bit, and each thing brings you down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then maybe like with business stuff, you're hoping for it to progress more quickly than it is. So it feels like you're working, but you don't have like something physical to show, and you'd really love to see something physical out of it. Right. And obviously we're close now to what our dream is, but I was wondering how you hold yourself strong to the vision and push through that. Like, do you have techniques or methods that you implement in order to get through those times? Or do you kind of just like put your nose to the grindstone and grind it out? Because that's what I do. I just keep myself focused and I just grind it out. And I know I have a list of things I have to do, and that's what I'm going to do. And it doesn't really matter how I feel about it. Right. But I was wondering if you have like techniques to get yourself more into the groove or more excited about getting it and doing it.
I don't think I have a technique so much as a lesson that I learned that's just been a part of my character since then. And that was the transition from high school to college, because it's a big step when you're that age. Like, you're changing your whole lifestyle. You've picked the direction your life is going to go in. You're getting on a train that you're going to be on for the next like 5 years. And at that point, everybody's doing something different. So like, you know, Zach is going to Stanford, Jimmy's going to go be a blue collar worker, and Stacy's going to go to law, and I'm doing mechanical engineering. So like, am I making the right choice? I don't know, because everybody else is going all these different directions. In addition to that, you're changing schools. So all new people, all new professors, all new curriculum, all new standards. The standards change. And all of a sudden you have all of this control placed into your hands. And I don't feel like I was ready for it at the time. And I was also moving into a, you know, collegiate rowing program that at the time I didn't feel like I deserved to be in, but I was recruited by the coach and asked to be there. So I felt, oh, I'm not as fast as this fucking 7 foot tall, 300 pound of pure muscle Lithuanian dude. Like, he's going to fucking pull me around in the boat, but I've been asked to be here. So like, I feel like I've got imposter syndrome everywhere. So I was freaking out like pretty heavy going into college because it was a big life change and I wasn't ready for it. I just did not handle change well.
Yeah.
But at the time, my girlfriend really walked me through it. And we sat down and I was like, I'm not going to row. I'm freaking out. I don't even know if I want to go to college anymore. Maybe I'll do this blue collar thing with my friend. Like fucking, I don't think I'm smart enough to do engineering. I don't think I'm fast enough to row. I don't think I'm sociable enough to get new friends. Like I'm fucking freaking out. And my girlfriend was like, okay, like you don't have to do any of those things. And I was like, what? She was like, you can still cancel. Like you can still drop out of college. You don't have to row. You don't have to go meet new people. Like you can just do what you want to do. And I was like, I mean, yeah, but I'm not going to because I've already committed to all of these things. And she was like, okay, then do them.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. She was like, start it. If you don't like it, like every day you can quit. And so I carried that mentality, especially into racing, into my senior years. In the early years of racing for rowing, you think you know what you're doing. And then in your like, 8th and 9th year, you realize you had no idea what the fuck you're doing. But with the mentality of, I'm going to do this. And if the next stroke I want to quit, I'll quit. And having that power of like, I'll stop when I feel like it. I learned I don't stop. If you give yourself permission to quit and then defy yourself, then it's just like a progressive cycle every day of, well, I'll just quit tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and you're like, I'm not quitting today. I'll quit tomorrow. So I used the I'll quit tomorrow method from then on. And something else that my girlfriend taught me was no matter what life changes I go through, if my dad dies tomorrow, if I get in a crippling car accident, if we go to World War III, at the time she had said, no matter what we go through, we'll always be together and we'll always have each other. And that was really comforting at the time. And we're not together anymore. And I don't lean on relationships in that way because I learned to be by myself after that relationship. But it taught me that, hey, no matter what you're going through, like the world keeps turning, you're going to be fine. You're still in control. You can still choose when to quit.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that. Thank you.
But if you give yourself permission to quit and then you do, like you got to look in the mirror and ask yourself who the fuck you think you are, because you're clearly not. Right. If you're
I know I don't quit. I'm not the type of person to quit.
Not you. I'm speaking to the audience. Yes.
Fair.
Yeah. I'm saying if you're the type of person to give yourself permission to quit and then you do, fucking reconsider what you want with your life and teach yourself a lesson. Because if you have the option to stop and do, like there's zero discipline there. I think the discipline can honestly be broken down to you have the opportunity to stop and then you don't. That's interesting.
I think Mike Tyson said this. He said that discipline is doing something you hate and acting like you love it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that mentality a lot. I use that mentality every morning when I take a cold shower. It's like I stand in front of the shower and I'm like, I hate this. It's 7 a.m. or whatever it is. I don't want to do this right now, but I'm going to act like I love it. I'm going to put a smile on my face. I'm going to get through it. I always, every single time I get out of the shower, I'm like, I'm glad I did that. There hasn't been a single time where I've been like, man, that cold shower, I wish I didn't take it.
Right.
Yeah. So
I think for me personally, especially from rowing, I don't think that it's important for me to be happy about doing it. I think that getting it done regardless of how I feel is how I feel. Like, and I learned that from when you go to sit down on the erg, it doesn't matter if you're sleepy or if you're energized or if you're hungry or if you're happy to be there or if you're alone and depressed and you don't want to do it. It doesn't matter how you're feeling because no matter what, you're going to sit down and you're going to take strokes until the workout's done.
Yeah.
And I think what that taught me how to switch my brain off. I think a lot of athletes have this where you just turn your brain off and you fucking do. I'd be a great rate victim because I could just turn my mind off and fucking do the task.
Yeah.
And I think that to me, that is what discipline is. It is doing what's required regardless of how you feel.
Yes.
Yeah, I got some zingers in here today. These are going on Twitter or X later. Okay, so I have a little bit of a story here. Interestingly, the Justin, who was a year younger than us at Florida Tech, he was on the rowing team with me. He stayed through the varsity cut. When I took over presidency of the team, I said, hey, you're the strongest leader on the team. When I leave, I want to hand the keys to you. I want you to be team captain, club president. And he graciously accepted that. He was also on the Formula SAE team. And when we left, did the same thing. We said, hey, here's the ticket to the presidency. Take over the team. Here's what you need. So kind of like our protege. He's a couple steps behind us. He's crushing it. He's doing really well. And he started working in Northrop Grumman a couple weeks ago. So now he and I are hanging out at work, and I'm kind of showing him the ropes of like, hey, here's what the last year of work has looked like for me. Here's what your next year is likely going to look like. And it's so funny to me because he's gone through my life steps exactly step by step. And the first thing he did when he started working was, I want to know how much money I'm going to owe in taxes every year. And I want to make sure that Northrop is withholding the right amount in taxes. So he did his tax calculator. He did it wrong. I showed him hours and showed him the right way to do it. That's the same mistake I made last year. From then, he made an Excel calculator where he can log all of his receipt transactions to figure out what his spending is. So he knows the mass flow money in and the mass flow money out, and then what the difference is. And that's the exact same thing that I did a year ago. And a little less than a year ago, I started to get overwhelmed with all the receipts, and my dad recommended Quicken to me, which is the system that I use today. It connects to your credit cards and debit cards. It shows you your net worth, all your savings accounts, shows you everything you need to know about your money. And so I told Justin, hey man, try this Quicken thing. And I showed it to him, and he put his head in his hands and he was like, this is painful. And I was like, what? Like, this is awesome. And he was like, I just finished my Excel sheet. And I was like, yeah, but this does it better. And he was like, I know, but I just worked for fucking 4 days to get this Excel sheet working. And I was excited to use it. And now I'm not going to because this is way better. And I was like, oh, because I had to make my Excel sheet and then go through the suffering of actually using it to appreciate Quicken. And like, I just handed him the golden egg way too early because he hasn't learned to hate the Excel sheet yet. And I thought that was really interesting. In our talks, in our conversation, he was speaking about a savings account because he said, hey, in this Quicken thing, do you know how to set up the savings feature? And I was like, savers are losers. I don't do that shit. And he was like, well, I mean, do you have an emergency fund? And I was like, my entire bank account is my emergency fund. Like, I'm running on razor thin margins here. Like, every dollar I have is going to get me to my business, which will then get me to the next. And he was like, he laughed because he cut his finger open cutting a cantaloupe last week. And he had to go get stitches for like $100. And he was like, that was super expensive. And I was like, yeah, but you
should have super glued it.
Yeah.
That's what I would have done.
Oh my God, dude, it was a bad cut.
Oh, really?
Off air. Yeah, fucked up. 9 stitches in his finger.
Oh my, in a finger, 9 stitches?
Dude. So
show me off air.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were speaking about the savings account, and my Robert Kiyosaki mind is savers are losers. I don't want to be a loser.
Yeah.
But I started to think critically about it because I'm trying to not spend as much money at the kava bars because I need more money in my pocket to quit my job. So I am a saver, and by Kiyosaki logic, I am therefore a loser. But I found a key distinction. I find that Robert Kiyosaki does a fantastic job of setting me up to like kind of get an understanding of how I should feel. And then Alex Hormozi does a fantastic job of fucking slamming the ball in the basket and telling me how it's actually done. So Alex Hormozi's quote is, saving money won't make you money, but it will give you the security to think further in the future and take bigger risks, which will absolutely make you more money.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to say Alex Hormozi saved for 2 years of his life so that he could start his, gym business and stuff like that. So, saving does have power.
He had $50,000 saved up when he switched. I do not have $50K saved up to quit my job. So it's got to work fast.
To be fair, too, he lived with several other people. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he also had a really tight budget. And on top of that, I think living expenses, 15, 20 years ago were more doable than they are today.
I think this was only 10 years ago. I don't think it was super long.
Probably 15, wasn't it?
I don't know. He's young. He's like 34. And he got his gyms when he was 23 or 24. I think it was like
10, somewhere between 10 and 15.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But regardless of like the expenses,
I think my point being is that the rent market and other expenditures have gone up incredibly in the last 4 years.
Right. But that would mean then that we need to be on a level playing field with him when quitting his job. We would need to have even more saved up than he did to make it the same amount of time.
Right.
And we have less. So we got to make it work super fast.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I get you. There will be a lot of pressure to make it happen quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah. So that was my Hormozi quote. And I've got another one that bleeds really well into it. Because figuring out this Kiyosaki quote versus the Hormozi quote it gave me a better understanding of how I should actually approach saving. And this Hormozi quote is, the difference between working hard and working smart at the most basic level is whether you learn and get better. And I really love that because you can work hard and smart, but really you want to be working as smart as possible. Jeff Bezos doesn't go to work every day. He's working smart, right?
Yeah, but I mean, there is a time and place for just, I think the mistake people make is they want to work smart before they work hard.
Yes.
Right. So there are so many people out there who look at, I don't know, we'll use an example as drop shipping.
Sure.
And they go to drop shipping and they're like, oh man, like, I don't know if I like want to go through all this process of finding a product and building a website. Like that's a lot of just hard work. Like how can I smarten this up? How can I get someone else to do it for me? How can I get a hack for it? How can I make it happen quicker? Right. Because they don't want to work hard before they figure out how to work smart.
Right.
And that's where people get stuck.
Yeah. What I love about this quote is the act of working hard teaches you the lessons that enable you to work smart. So he's saying you have to work hard before you get smart. And exactly like you're saying, I think a lot of people skip that step.
Yes.
And they overlook it.
Agreed.
But I really love
There was another entrepreneur that I follow who said something very similar this week. And I forgot to write it down, but
yeah,
he said that so many people, he said he believes in working hard and working smart. You have to work hard before you work smart because he used the example of tennis.
Yeah.
You say you could be the best tennis player in the world, but you don't know that you're going to have that little bit of talent that sets you apart from the rest until you do 95% of just pure hard work to get to that extra 5% where your talent and smart work comes in. Mm-hmm. But you've got to do the 95% of hard work before you can grab the 5% at the end. Right? You can't try to grab that 5% first and then put in the 95.
Yep.
Right. So.
Exactly. It's a beautiful quote. I love it a lot. And it makes me feel better because working smart, sometimes to me, the idea of working smart seems like a cop-out.
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't ever want to be the person who doesn't work hard. But I think that there's a flavor distinction between, are you a hard worker? Like, do you put effort in? And do you sweat every day? Like, are you like in the weeds? Because I think there's a way to do both. And my question related to this is, do you have any examples from recent memory where you were working hard and then learned a lesson from that to then work smart?
I have a couple good ones, but I think the best one that I have is video editing. Mm-hmm. Because when I used to
really edit videos
sometimes. When I used to go through that process, like I had such a janky method of uploading the video and mixing the audio and then connecting the audio together and then splicing together. Like I had no rhythm and like no system to make it happen. I just kind of did things as I saw they needed to happen and just kind of compiled it together and then download it. And now I have a very specific system that I create a very long video with all of the questions or whatever segment we're doing. And I split it up. I re-download just those with the audio mix. I re-upload them to separate files where I add the captions. So it compartmentalizes each one of my tasks, and it allows me to do one thing to everything at the same time. So I can do captions for everything at the same time, titles for everything at the same time, audio mixing for everything. So I'm not jumping between different tasks in each separate video block. And so, but to get to the point where I have a really good system to knock that stuff out. And, another example too is creating the posts for all of those TikTok shorts. Like I used to kind of jumble everywhere and try to figure out what I'm doing next. And now I have like a template that I duplicate the week prior. I fill it all in. I get it pasted. I have docs prepared. I get it all done. Like it's a very organized system, and I can work incredibly efficiently in that and then get it done as quickly as possible. But early on, it was just like hard work to figure it out. And like, why is my CapCut editor doing this? Why can't I upload this footage? Why is this having this error? Why is Spotify not allowing me to upload this video? Like there's just weird shit like that. Where I just had to work hard to figure it out, but now I can work smart and get it done. Mm-hmm. I think another thing too is that when I used to work on cars, this was like a few years ago, like if I had a problem that I didn't understand, I'd just throw parts at it that I thought were good until it solved my issue. Mm-hmm. Right. And now I try to I have like a mental list that I go through in terms of diagnosis, looking at the different systems, what is connected to the system, how can it influence what my issue is, where can I go from here, what tests can I run without buying a part, and then what parts may I need depending on whatever test results I get. Yeah. So I have like a systematic system where I can work smart, condense my time down and also condense my monetary efforts to the problem down from where I used to be like, I don't know what the problem is. It could be this, this, and this. So I'll replace all three because it sounds good.
Right.
You know? So, yeah, those are the two examples that come to the forefront of my mind about that.
Those are good ones.
What about you?
I think our business is the one that is at the top of my list right now. And we have not gotten to the working smart bit yet. Because it is just like eating a bag of dicks for like probably the next 8 months until it starts to get into the hands of our employees and partners. Because I think that by doing the hard work now, similar to the editing, right? Like you need to like eat a bag of dicks to figure out what the system should be. And then once you have the system, it's easy going because you can do that system yourself if you want to, or you can hand that system to someone else and then they can do it exactly the same because it's the scientific method. It's repeatable. And I think that in essence, working smart is creating a system that you can have someone else do on your behalf and then just taking a fee.
Yeah.
Taking a cut.
Yeah. That's the smart way to do it. But
yeah,
before that, you just have to work hard to develop that system and make it happen and get good people around you and build that network.
And so many people hate on Bezos but let's just use Bezos as an example because Elon Musk
he's worked fucking hard to get to the point where he's at. This is what bothers me so much about the fucking like take all the money away from the this is what bothers me about the mentality of like take all the money away from the wealthy and successful. And I'm like, no. First of all, I have a strong belief that entrepreneurs and business people and creative minds are going to save this world. I don't think politicians are going to save this world. I don't think people who are satisfied in their 9-to-5s are going to save this world. And I don't think people who are, not striving for anything greater are going to save, us and, bring future potential into society. I don't think that's it. I think entrepreneurs and business people and people who are growing something greater are going to save this world. And it bothers me so much that people like take a Jeff Bezos today and be like, look, he's not working hard. I'm like, well, you don't understand. For 10, 15 years of his life, all of the times that you went out to the bar with your friends or you fucked around or you went to your 9-to-5 hungover because you didn't care, or you went, and just screwed around every weekend of the year because you thought this was life, he was fucking working his ass off. Mm-hmm. He was in the office. He was sweeping on the floor. He was making it happen, and he was building his dream. And he worked fucking harder than you could ever fathom in your life to get to that point. And the fact that you have the audacity to come in and say he didn't work hard for that is bullshit and stupid. And it's ill-informed, and it's such a pessimistic little shit view. And I hate it. I hate it so much because the people who complain about that sort of thing don't understand the level of effort it takes to get to that point.
Yep.
It took 95% hard work to get the 5% of smart work. And you can't just look at the 5% of smart work and go, that's all he did. Yep. Because there's 95% that led up to that. Sorry to interrupt you, but that topic, it really is something that personally irks me the wrong way when people complain about that. It really does.
This was my biggest point of contention with one of my ex-girlfriends.
Yeah.
She would say like, oh, they fucking like the rich people always evade their taxes. And I was like, well, not really. Like they play the tax.
The system is there to make it work.
Yeah.
Don't blame the player, blame the game. Blame the game.
Right. She was of the opinion that like, oh, well, they don't need that much money, so they should pay it back to the society. And I would counter that with, I mean, what's to say that you don't need all of the money past your grocery bill and rent? Yeah. How would you feel if I said you don't need that money? And she was like, well, that's stupid because you need enough money to live. And if you take away everything else, I don't have enough money to live. And these rich people have like billions, and no one needs billions. And I was like, but that's the thing. Like, you don't need more money than your groceries and rent, but you're entitled to it because you earned it. It's the same deal with the billionaires. And she would always counter with, why the fuck are you so like protective of this like higher upper class? Because you're not the higher upper class. You have fucking $800 in your bank account. Like, why are you protecting these people? It would benefit you. And at the time, I had never seen myself as a billionaire. I would always just answer with, well, I think it's only fair because if I were in their shoes, like if you came to me today and wanted half of my fucking money, I would defend it like my life depended on it because it does. And now that I'm in the position where, mind you, I still don't have fucking much money at all in my bank account, I still would defend those people now with the intent of becoming one day. And I'm starting to recognize how much work is ahead of us and that I don't want to give that work up. I don't want to pay
100%
pay you because I have money.
100%.